So, welcome back to yet another PS5 Pro versus 6800 XT PC comparison. This time, it's Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which happens to be one of my favorite AAA games to come out recently. Unfortunately, it launched with a lot of performance issues on both console and PC, and it's gotten better with updates, but when I found out that a PS5 Pro patch was coming, I was really excited to see how the developers would take advantage of the additional power. And it's such a missed opportunity, guys. In this video, I will show you the route I would have went with the update, and to compare the PS5 Pro, I'll be using my 6800 XT GPU. Now, this GPU should technically be a little bit faster in rasterization than the Pro, according to the statistics. As far as ray tracing, well, we don't really have a reference point since the PS5 Pro is still a bit of a black box in that regard, but we'll compare the ray tracing as well. Okay then, so what are the PS5 Pro improvements for Jedi Survivor? Well, according to Digital Foundry, there's a performance mode and a quality mode. We're going to focus mostly on the performance mode, but we'll touch on the quality mode as well. It's using RTAO, RT reflections, targeting 1800p, and upscaling using PSSR from 900p, although it is dynamic and can go lower or a bit higher.
In terms of the resolution numbers, I think PSSR is upsampling to 1800p, but it's not resolving 1800p worth of detail. Now, EA says it's upscaling from 1200p to 1800p. Unfortunately, in my testing, that was not the case. It's actually about 900p on average, but there is some pretty severe dynamic resolution scaling. So the lowest number I got was below 720p. The highest number I got was well above 1080p.
Now, another thing that sounded kind of interesting was that Oliver said that the RT reflections on the performance mode actually didn't look as detailed as the RT reflections in quality mode.
But one thing you'll notice is that if you compare the performance mode and the old quality mode, the RT reflections sometimes appear more limited. There's less geometry in them. They aren't really properly lit sometimes.
But there is one thing that I found really impressive about the PS5 Pro and Jedi Survivor, and that is the actual frame rate.
One last thing in the performance mode, in terms of the frame rates in that mode, it is basically a flawless 60 FPS in the content that I tested. Did drop a couple frames from time to time, like on this river, and it is accompanied by a little bit of screen tearing in the top portion of the screen, but it's generally 60 FPS.
And one of the biggest downside for this update seems to be that PSSR doesn't actually look very good in this game. I don't know if it's because it's targeting such a low resolution, or maybe it's an older SDK, but the conclusion DF came to was that FSR actually looked better, and I do agree.
But the real key change here, outside of the RT, is the addition of PSSR in this title, because they have added PSSR in this game in the performance mode, and image quality, unfortunately, it's really not good with PSSR in this title.
If you saw this excellent breakdown by Digital Foundry, you will have seen how PSSR looks very noisy, very unstable. It doesn't look very good. Now, I'm not going to dwell too much on that. PSSR just launched, and it could have been not the best implementation. I've seen it happen before with both FSR and DLSS, actually. But anyway, we got our work cut out for us. Let's see what the 6800 XT can do. Okay, so we're going to start in Kobo, which is one of the most demanding areas in the game, especially on PC. This area is extremely CPU heavy, which is why I found the PS5 Pro in performance mode being able to maintain 60 with a Zen 2 8-core CPU to be very impressive. I don't think the PC would be able to do that with a Zen 2 CPU. That's why I'm not using one, actually, because why would you with a 6800 XT? But as far as resolution, we're targeting 1800p, just like the PS5 Pro. The Epic graphical preset. Now, the PS5 Pro performance mode could be using lower graphical settings, but the 6800 XT is very capable, so I'm not worried too much about that. For ray tracing, it's just a toggle, guys, which turns on RT reflections, AO, and global illumination. The PS5 Pro is not using RT global illumination in its performance mode, and it's also using, according to Digital Foundry, lower quality ray trace reflections versus quality mode. But this is actually native 1800p, and we're getting around 45 to 50 FPS, which is actually a lot better than I thought it would be, because the PS5 Pro's performance mode is actually upscaling from 900p. That is 50% the resolution scale of the 1800p output. Now, what we can do here is we can try throwing FSR to quality. We're still upscaling from a much higher resolution than the PS5 Pro is, because FSR quality would be 67% of 1800p, which is 1206p instead of the 900p on the PS5 Pro. And that takes us actually a little bit above 60 FPS, which is quite good. Now, hear me out for a second, because I'm just spitballing here, right? I feel like the PS5 Pro should be doing better. Now, if you think about it, right? 60 compute units of what is rumored to be RDNA 4 ray tracing, you would think that 60 compute units of RDNA 4 ray tracing would be quite a bit more potent than 72 compute units of RDNA 2 ray tracing, which is what the 6800 XT is. So I'm not sure what that's all about. That's why I find these comparisons to be so interesting, right? That's one aspect of that. But the fact remains that we are running this game at higher graphical fidelity than the PS5 Pro in its performance mode, because we're also using RTGI, which the Pro isn't in its performance mode, and we're upscaling from a higher resolution, 1206p versus 900p on the Pro. Well, why don't we try to upscale from 900p as well? So for that, we'd have to put FSR to performance mode. So let's check it out. Now, you'd think that by upscaling from performance instead of quality FSR, we'd get a lot more FPS, but we don't, because this game is very CPU heavy on PC, especially with ray tracing on. And look at that GPU utilization, guys. The 6800 XT, we're only utilizing like 70 to 80% of it because we're CPU limited in this area. But another thing I found out, and could be the reason why the developers put such a big range on the PS5 Pro, is, well, the bodies of water. This river here, the ray trace reflections are actually very costly here. You will see, once we make our way there, the reflections are very heavy on the GPU as well. As a matter of fact, let's go back to FSR quality. Look at that. We're now dropped to 46 FPS, guys. Whereas with FSR quality, previously we were getting around 65 FPS. So I think the reason why they've put such a big range on the PS5 Pro, because you have to think that the developers want to make sure that the console can do 60 FPS at all times. So they have to make up for those very heavy areas. So I think that's probably why they're targeting such low resolutions. But still, even with FSR quality, we're actually at around 50 FPS here. So that's pretty cool. But one thing is clear, guys, the 5900X is becoming a bottleneck for the 6800 XT. So let's go ahead and switch to the 7800X 3D, because we're curious what the 6800 XT can do. Okay, so I've moved my 6800 XT over to my AM5 build with the 7800X 3D, and now we're checking FSR balance. So we're upscaling from a higher resolution than the PS5 Pro. We're actually upscaling from 63% of 1800p, which is 1134p being upscaled to 1800p with FSR. And it actually looks fine, guys. It looks pretty good. It definitely looks better than PSSR does on the PS5 Pro. Now, I'm not bashing PSSR, just saying how it looks in this game, and maybe the rumors are true that they're using an older SDK. I mean, we've seen PSSR provide pretty good results with upscaling. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned about that. It just came out. But anyway, we get the idea. I feel the 6800 XT does much better than the PS5 Pro here. I mean, we're maxing out our graphics. We have more RT effects on. We have RTGI, which the PS5 Pro does not have in its performance mode. Now, let me show you what I would have done if I was a developer to enhance the experience of PS5 Pro owners. Now, the beauty of PC is that you have full control of your hardware. You don't have to rely on developers to choose what they think you might want, or to push ray tracing when it might not make a lot of sense, depending on the game, on the hardware. There's a lot of factors here, but fact is that I think going with ray tracing in the performance mode was a big mistake. So I've decided to cancel that out, and I've decided to target 4K instead of 1800p, and we're going to start with FSR quality. So we're upscaling from 1440p to 4K. And the image quality already looks much crisper. It looks much better. Now, yeah, it is difficult to maintain a locked 60. That's why I'm sticking to this area, because this is the most demanding area in the game, right? If you can maintain it here, you can maintain it anywhere. And I would say we're pretty much at a 60 FPS experience. The game still is a mess on PC though. Even with the 7800 X3D, you will have the occasional hitch here and there, but another benefit of not using ray tracing in this game is that ray tracing itself is very CPU intensive. So by canceling that out, we get much smoother gameplay experience. And yeah, with VRR or FreeSync in this case, game looks very fluid. Another thing you could do to gain even more FPS, or to make sure that you're getting at least 60 plus, is, well, you can go from the epic to the high graphical preset and go with FSR balance. FSR balance is upscaling from 1360p to 4K. And you're well above 60, even in this very demanding area. See, what I think happened is, I think that Sony probably pushed the developers to add ray tracing and PSSR to just make this update and the new console stand out. But I think the developers should really know better, because PSSR does not look very good in this game. It looks worse than FSR. So I think pushing PSSR was a mistake. Regardless of what SDK was or what the implementation was, the end result is what matters. And ray tracing is just too much of an encumbrance here. It just doesn't make sense. I think this is a better utilization of the hardware, in my opinion. Now, if you wanted a smooth 60, well, that's very simple, and we can go for a console-like performance. You can just throw a 60 FPS frame rate cap, and you'll be fine. The game will maintain it. So, yeah, I mean, I think the 6800 XT overall, I think, is fairly representative of the PS5 Pro's, at least rasterization power, in my opinion. Ray tracing, I'm still undecided. I mean, I've been able to match it in a few of the games that I've tested, but I still think that we need to see more to understand the capabilities of the PS5 Pro when it comes to ray tracing. The rasterization is pretty straightforward. I mean, they told us, right? Up to 45% faster. And up to means best case scenario. So then, I guess to sort of just wrap up this part of the video, this is what I would have done if I was the developer. I would just ditch ray tracing, ditch PSSR, and try to give the players a higher resolution target with 60 FPS in mind, and a better image quality. I mean, that's what people want, right? So hopefully, I mean, there's no reason why they can't add such a mode, right? Add a performance mode without ray tracing and without PSSR, or update the PSSR so that it can look better, if that's possible. Again, I mean, upscaling from 50% resolution, guys, is a tall ask, even at 4K, even from something like DLSS, which is, you know, the best upscaler in the market. Even for that, that is a tall ask. So, you know, PSSR is being put to the test with this one. Now, PS5 Pro also has a quality mode which targets 4K and upscales from 1440p and has all ray tracing effects enabled. So RTAO, reflections, and global illumination. And I actually tested this very briefly on the 6800 XT. We targeted 4K and used FSR quality with everything maxed out, including ray tracing. And I actually set a 40 FPS cap instead of 30. And I just did a quick test in Kobo, and it seemed to be able to maintain 40. But I wouldn't play this game like this. It doesn't feel very good. I think 60 is definitely the target. Ideally more, but I think that is the minimum in my opinion. But yeah, this was actually a very interesting comparison, because it feels like the PS5 Pro's GPU was underperforming and its CPU was overperforming. Whereas on PC, the 6800 XT looks like it was overperforming, but CPU utilization on PC for this game is not good. I'm actually very surprised that a Zen 2 8-core on the console can maintain 60 in Kobo and with ray tracing enabled. I mean, it just goes to show how optimization and what the developers do has a pretty big effect, because, I mean, we have compared the Zen 2 CPU on PC, and with the console, it can actually keep up and even overperform, because the 3700X is a faster CPU than the console's Zen 2 8 core. It's got more cache, it clocks higher, but if the developers don't take advantage of it properly, well, you run into situations like this. So there will always be outlier games where, you know, one aspect of it may perform better on PC while the other may perform a bit better on console. Outlier games will always exist, but it's actually funny seeing some people that go out of their way, more the fanboy types, where they'll take clips and try to say, oh, the PS5 Pro's CPU beats a, I don't know, 5900X or a 7800X 3D or something like that, for example. But I think there's more to it than that. If you're genuinely enthusiastic about gaming hardware instead of cheerleading for brands, that's not what I do in this channel. I am genuinely passionate and curious about this stuff. That's why I spend a lot of time looking at it and share that with you guys. And yeah, your views and interactions with the video means a lot to me. I do like hearing you guys comment and giving me feedback. Also suggesting topics that I could be interested in looking into. But yeah, I would say that this one was a very interesting comparison for me, because I really do like Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order. I'm a big Star Wars fan personally, and since Disney took over, it's gone massively downhill. I think there was only one movie that I liked. Rogue One was good, and The Force Awakens was alright. But as far as games, it's been really bad, man. I think this game, Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order, was probably the most Star Wars feeling content I've consumed since George Lucas sold the franchise to a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing. I have to be blunt, because that's exactly how I feel. But I don't know. You guys leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Share your thoughts. Like to hear it. And thanks for watching. Give the video a like. Consider subscribing if you want to see more similar content. And I will see you on the next one. Peace out.